This is the secret about the Veda, is that Sanskrit is the secret of why it's still what it was thousands and thousands of years ago. Because Sanskritam means the language that was made perfect. There's no other language on our planet that's perfect. Sanskrit is perfect. It has a methodological approach. The pronunciation is precise. The grammar is precise. There's 4,000 grammatical rules. One of my professors taught me Sanskrit. He had memorized the 4,000 grammatical rules of Sanskrit.
Wow.
So you say something in Sanskrit, he'd say rule number 2,221, if this, then this, and that.
Wow.
Now, that's a pundit. That's a pundit. I'm not a pundit. That's pundit. Pandita. So then there's a precise roots. There's 2,212 roots to Sanskrit words. I call it a dhatu. And without those roots, you can't build a word. So there are a precise number of roots, precise number of grammatical rules, precise pronunciation of the 50 letters of the Sanskrit alphabet. And then, lastly, it's done in poetry or chandas so that it can be memorized.
Yeah.
Ubhuvasva tatsa viturva reni ambargo devasya dimahi. So it was assembled as poetry so it could be memorized before there was a printing press. And all of these characteristics mean that Sanskrit has stayed the same over vast amounts of time. English cannot do that. European languages cannot do that. It's called linguistic drift. They start drifting away from their meaning. Hebrew cannot do this. Latin cannot do this. Greek cannot do this, because they all came from Sanskrit, and they're less precise. So it isn't dogma that makes the Veda so important. It's science. It's precise, grammatical, linguistic science, means the message has stayed the same over large expanses of the time you were talking about, in spite of Kali Yuga, in spite of this, in spite of that. Those things happen. It's winter, but my books are still dry, in which case my knowledge will make it through the winter, metaphorically, because I have a roof over my head. So in Kali Yuga, things get more difficult. There could be a lot of serious problems. We could blow each other up and start fresh. That's obvious right now. We're at the edge of a big precipice. We could destroy the planet in 10 years and each other and leave a big mess behind and start fresh. Those of us who are yogis are hoping we can convince people that's not the best plan.
Yes.
So anyway, your question leads to so many things. This is just a sample of it. But the ability to talk about time is unique to the Vedic culture, and no other culture has it. And there's no other language that lasts over time without changing. Not another one that has the same built-in, and those are called the Veda Angas. They're the limbs of the Veda, and 4 of them are linguistic. There's jyotish at the top. There's shiksha for pronunciation of Sanskrit, vyakarana for the grammatical rules, nirukta for the roots etymologically, and then chandas for the poetry. So that's, counting jyotish, that's 5 sciences. And the 6th is the day-to-day rituals that we engage in to integrate with nature and cooperate with nature. And that's the so-called fire sacrifice. But every day we have to cook, don't we? So when we cook, if we don't cook, we can't eat. And when we cook and eat, what's left afterwards? Well, in us, life. On the ground, ashes. What's the last step of cooking dinner? The ashes go back in the garden, because the ashes have the minerals from the wood that will make the next vegetables. So Kalpa is the name for the 6th Vedanga, and Kalpa has been misnamed as pagan rituals. What it really is scientific rules of cooperation with nature.
Yes.
The science of cooperating with nature is called kalpa, because there's a right way, a ritual way to do everything. If you do it the wrong way, you go against nature.
Mm.
So this precision of the Veda hasn't been taught yet. It's been taught like it was a religion, like it was a sect, like it was confused, but it's none of that. It's very precise, it's very scientific. And in this Vedic Renaissance that's just blossoming right now, that's what people like you and myself and many others are doing. We're carrying some of that out to the world and saying, hey, wait, you haven't listened to this one yet.
Yes, because people have so many misconceptions. They think, oh, it's like any other religion, like we have Hinduism, we have like Christian, we have Christian religion, but it's not the same. It's like a big, this is like Vedas and Vedic knowledge. I say it's like a big ocean, and all these little religions is like a cup which just contains some water from it, you know, with a certain, you know,
and this is the life raft.
Yeah, Bhagavad Gita.
Because the reason is anyone is smart enough, reasonably intelligent, is smart enough to get the fundamental principles and to learn about 100 Sanskrit words that are not present in their culture. That's why the Gita is to act as the platform of us knowing these ideas of us as an immortal being, of this as Prakriti, meaning what? Prakriti. Matter produces things by repeating the laws of nature, by repeating the ritam over and over again. And then from that, things come out, prakriti, but they're temporary. They only exist within time. So the next thing that we need to know and are missing is that we're not temporary, that we're immortal beings. We can't die. So that's where we're the Atma. Then we need to know there's a realm called Brahman, which is permanent, and one called Prakriti, which is temporary. So that juxtaposition, that's what the Gita is all about. It gets us into the conversation with the right vocabulary of Sanskrit so that we can proceed from there to go to higher, more complex explanations. It's the C-spot run. It's the beginning book that gets us going. It hasn't been presented that way because it hasn't been given so people get the vocabulary of Sanskrit that they must have to describe this as a world view. So think of the Veda as a worldview, but you need about 100 words just to articulate it. And those words don't exist in any European language or in English. They're not in those languages because they weren't carried into those languages purposely. But all those languages came from Sanskrit, but they didn't come with the clear message. And that's the particular reason for the user's manual. That's why it's not a Bible, it's a user's manual. You wouldn't call your computer user's manual a Bible. You'd say it shows me how to use this device. And this is the device. And the Gita explains it in time and scale in relation to all the different things around it. Explains the devas, explains the yugas, explains time, explains all these things. And these are the basic topics that everyone should know first before they try to understand the rest of the Veda. Otherwise, they'll get confused because they're out of sequence in the subject.
Yeah.
And that's what we call adhikari, is what is the person's level of readiness for the next teaching.
Yes. So to move from the topic of Kali Yuga, as I understood, we are living in this winter of seasons, but we have this umbrella of knowledge of Bhagavad Gita to shelter us and to give us knowledge to endure this winter. But before we go more into Bhagavad Gita, let us start with you giving us a little bit more knowledge about the origins and the very age of Vedas. What does that term Veda and Vedic actually means, because people get, as you said, often confused Vedas, Vedantism, Brahmanism, Hinduism, Sanatana Dharma. What is actually the word Veda mean, and what are the content of Vedas, and what are the purpose of Vedas?
All right. Well, the first word is going to be fun for everyone, because we took an English word from the word Veda. And the word we took is video.
Huh.
What we're doing right now is video. It's from vid. And vid or ved is the root of Veda. And Veda means to see.
Also in Croatian, I must say, to see, we say vidi. Vidi, and to talk something, pripovijedati. Pripovijedati, vidi, vidjeti, see, to see, is the same.
Same word. So Veda, before there were computers, Veda was the Sanskrit storage system for what had been seen by ancestors who were very intelligent, or what had been purposely revealed by the higher beings, and therefore left for humans, so they would have an idea of what's going on, where they are. So you could say all the user's manuals, all of the visual and auditory explanations, they didn't need technology the way we have it now, but there was a technology for passing all of that forward from generation to generation. And Veda is therefore something one learns precisely, just as this broadcast has to be precise or it simply stops. The knowledge no longer makes it through the air, through the space, through where it's going. We're so many thousands of miles apart right now.
Yeah.
Yet it's as if we're connected.
Yes.
And we are. I'm saying something, you're saying something, we're connected. So similarly, yoga is our connection to everything, which is various. And Veda is the big picture. It's seeing the big picture. And so therefore in Veda they say yata pinde tata brahmande. The tiny thing is exactly like the big thing made small. As above, so below. So yata pinde tata brahmande, if we can understand all of this, when we get it, we go, now I see. Now I see. Veda. Video. Oh, you played me the movie. Got it. Now, this is there's a big secret in this. You ready?
Yes.
Okay. Imagine that you're watching a movie. And the movie is being projected on a wall. A stone wall. The movie looks wonderful. You want to be in it. You go running at the wall and boom, smash into it, fall down on the ground, bloody nose. Then you drag yourself back to your seat in the theater and your nose gets better. And you see something in the movie you really want. You go running at it again and boom, same thing again and again and again and again. Then finally, you look up at the movie while you're lying there with a bloody nose, and you realize that the movie's not on the screen. The movie's back there. So you turn around and look up, and you see the light coming down from a higher source, making the movie on the screen. So you start to follow the light back to its source. Now you are ascending. And that's the saying that one ascends to greater heights by knowledge. And if you look down, you can see what you now saw close up at a distance. But if you keep going, you see this bright light up at the top. And then, if you put your eye right up against the lens of the projector, all you see is what? White light. And you forget about the forms that you were seeing down below. But they're still there. But are they really there, or are they there? So then you go inside that light, meaning you go into the room where they're broadcasting the movie that you've been watching. Now you can see the projector, and you could then go meet the actors and actresses. This is called Vedanta.
Wow.
What is the conclusion of seeing? First, you see it on the screen. Then you realize it's not where it appears to be. You grab it, but you can't keep it. Why? Because it's temporary here in matter. So you turn around and follow that back. Now you're a Buddhist. Now you say none of this is real, and you go the other way. Then you put your eye up against the light, and it's bright white light. And now you're a Brahmavad. Now you say it's all one. At each stage, you're correct. In the first stage, you're correct, it's on the screen. The next stage is you're correct, it's not really there. The next stage, you're right, it's emerging from light, just like the sun has 7 colors, but it looks like white light. And then you go inside, and that's called bhakti. You get to meet the actors and the actresses. And that's called Bhagavan.
It's like the director of the movie.
And not only the director, but the actors and actresses who are in it. In other words, you get to the source of the beauty. So with this metaphor, we go from trying to get happy within matter, and we can't. We get the most beautiful thing, and it doesn't last.
Yes.
And that makes us very sad, because we took so much trouble to make it just perfect, and then it gets destroyed.
Yes. Somehow.
So then we turn around, and then we go up some distance away and say, all right, I don't care. We really do, but we just, our heart's broken. We keep going and going and going and going. But if we're sincere, then we go to the next stage, and all the things we've been looking at are coming from the light. Everything in our world right now comes from the sunshine. No sunshine, no world. Om Bhu Bhuva Sva. It's all about the light. Tat Savitur Varenyam, Bhargo Devasya Dhimahi, Dhyo Yo Na Prachodayat. I adore that, and I want to follow that back to where it came from. That's yoga. What we just did is yoga. It's one of the ways that we use vidya to look and see the big issues, the big picture of what's going on, and then we can direct ourselves back. And where I landed us was in bhakti, because bhakti seems to be a disappointment, meaning pleasure and love and seeing beauty. Here, that's what runs the show. But what if it's an illusion? Oh, well, then we say, oh, the heck with it. But if it's an illusion, why was it the most important thing to us? What if it's real, but it's not where it appears to be? What if it's a projection? Then we, going back, now, because you asked about Veda, is called Vedanta. Anta means source. Where did it come from? Where did all of this beauty we're chasing come from? Since I can't keep it here, but I really still want it, when you go back and you get in touch with that beauty, that's a yoga called bhakti. Now you get in touch with the source of everything. The knowledge-based one where you're saying what you're not is called jnana yoga. Not this, not this. Na iti, na iti, na iti, na iti. And that's called samkhya, or jnana yoga. Karma yoga is when you hold all of that in mind and you work carefully within matter in the laws of nature. and you're careful not to upset the balance, which is also known as dharma. And now, if you don't upset the balance, you don't get a lot of negative feedback from prakriti, from matter. And see how I'm using more Sanskrit words? We're building the vocabulary of the listener. For those of you who are listening, if you forget the words, then the picture won't be as complete. But for the people listening who know the words, I'm arranging them in such a way that they'll see the picture in a new way. And so this is what the Vedic conversation is about. It's a vocabulary of Sanskrit that must be used to see things that are not ordinarily visible. And part of yoga is learning a vocabulary of worldview words so you can change your perspective and see everything on a bigger perspective. All right, I'll let you ask some questions now, but your questions are so great, they open up a whole vista.
I know.